So now I'm going to jump into a live demonstration of the product. So I'm going to open our TracerPlus desktop software, go to Samples. So one thing I didn't show, if I just jump back to the website, so we do have what we call our Solution Center, and this is a pre-built list of mobile applications that are free to use. You can download them, use them as is, or modify them, tweak them to your needs, and then deploy them to your mobile device, which can be, a Windows device, or I should say Windows Mobile CE, Android, and then iOS coming soon. So we have different categories here, and if we go back to the desktop software, these are the same categories that you're seeing there. So we have asset tracking, inventory control, inspections, route accounting, event management, retail, field service, and then miscellaneous. You can also use the search box if you're looking for something specific. But I'm just going to look at the, let's go to the route accounting. So once we click on a category, you will see all of the apps available within that category. So one thing we have here is a delivery of goods. And if we click on that, you'll get a preview of what the app's going to look like. This was designed on a Windows device, but can be used on an Android device as well. So if I click Next, and then Import, that will directly import into the TracerPlus desktop software. And now we'll see what we call sessions. We have two sessions here, which is basically a form with a data table. So we have a delivery goods session and a deliver list session. The deliver list is what's going to hold or basically sync over a list of orders to deliver. So that's going to contain your list of items that should be delivered, and as you deliver them, will get updated with a status of delivered. The deliver goods is the actual application you would be using on the device to actually scan the items and deliver them. So in order to deploy this to my device, I'm just going to click this Build Deploy. And then we can choose a platform that we're deploying to. In this case, I have a Windows device, so I'll leave it at that. But if we chose Android, you'll notice that we have several methods of deploying a project to Android. The default being the Media Transfer Protocol, or MTP. So that's the more common method. For some older devices, you can use a map drive. Or you could use Android Debug Bridge if you have developer mode enabled. And then one thing we do recommend users use, because it usually has the least amount of trouble when deploying things like drop-downs, is our deploy server. So this allows you to basically generate a QR code, and then using our app on the device, scan this code, and it will actually download this project remotely and then import it into your device. But I'm going to choose Windows because I have a Windows device, and then I'm going to click Deploy. And I'm also using a utility that's free called My Mobiler that allows me to view my mobile device from my PC and remotely control it. So here's that project deployed. We have our Deliver Goods session and our Deliver List. So if we go into Deliver List, you'll see that we have no records currently. And if we go to Delivery Goods, I'm just going to clear this data out from a previous session. So the first thing we need to do is actually get our list of goods to deliver over to our device. So in order to do that, we're going to utilize our TracerPlus Connect software, which is a data syncing tool that allows you to sync data via batch or wireless to and from the device. And you can sync from most ODBC data sources, Microsoft Excel, or text files. So in this case, I'm going to sync from ODBC. Since we actually include a sample access database with Connect that utilizes this deliver goods session. So I'm going to create a new project, and then I'm going to add a profile. So a profile in Connect can either be a sync profile or a live profile. Sync meaning you could do either a cradled or wireless sync if you're Windows. If it's Android, it would have to be a wireless type sync. Or if you want to do a live profile, that is a real-time connection directly to your destination. So when you're using live mode, we would definitely recommend an ODBC database. Do not use Excel. And that would enable you to update information in real time. So I'm just going to go to projects. I'm going to marry my desktop project to this profile so that it'll make the configuration a lot easier. So we look for our deliver projects or deliver goods project, and I'll just check desktop just to see what it's named. We see it's called deliver goods. So I will go to that folder and we will go ahead and create the profile. So next we want to name our profile. So we'll call this one sync to device. And I'll add a sync process to it. So a sync profile can have multiple processes within it. So when you actually trigger the sync of this profile, it will sync all processes versus if you didn't want everything to sync at the same time, you would want to separate those into different profiles. We will call this one sync deliver list. This will sync our deliver list up to the device. It's going to come from ODBC, our TracerPlus Connect sample, and then our deliver goods or deliver list table. And then once we select our destination of TracerPlus, because that's where we're syncing it to, since we married our desktop project, you'll see our two sessions here versus our generic session 1 through 32. So we want to sync this up to our deliver list. And then we just want to match up these field mappings at the bottom. Lastly, we will set the post type. So when we sync this to the device, we just want to overwrite what's on it. And then we can save this project. We'll call it deliver goods TP9. And if I jump over to the data viewer and we look at our deliver list table, here's the rows that we currently have that we can actually sync to the device so that someone can go out and deliver these. So now in order to sync this over to the device, one thing you can do, you can use these sync buttons here if the device is cradled. However, this relies on the Windows Mobile Device Center connection, which can be flaky at best. So although it may work most times, you'll find that sometimes it doesn't. So we would actually recommend triggering the sync from the device. And to do this, we would just add a sync button either to one of our forms, or what I like to do is add a separate dedicated sync session. So I'll add a session 3, call it sync. Then I'll remove fields and start with a blank canvas for our form. And I can just add a button here. I can call it sync deliver list. And the form designer is a nice drag and drop type environment, so I can kind of size this button however I want. I can change its font size and color as well as its weight. I'll make that bold and maybe a little larger. And then what we want to do is set its button action. So this is going to tell the button what to do when it's clicked. So what we want is a button action called do sync. That's what's going to initiate a sync with the TracerPlus Connect software. So once we select that action, you'll see that we have some sync settings that we need to define. One being the host ID and the other being the So the host ID is going to be the PC or server that you're going to be syncing with. So if you're cradled, that would be your local PC. If you're doing it wirelessly, you would want either the IP address or the host name of that PC or server so it knows how to connect and do the sync. I'm going to do a cradle sync. So if we go back to the project properties and then we have a section called Connect, here we can add hosts. So I'm going to add a host. Note the ID is 1. And for cradle sync, I can do PPP_peer using port 4403. So by default, our Connect software utilizes ports 4403 and 4404. So the PPP peer is telling it to do a cradled connection. If you did want it to do a wireless type connection, you would enter that IP address here or that PC host name. So once again, we have a host ID of 1. If we go back to sync, we can now go ahead and name or set this host ID to 1 because that matches that host that we just added. Then the profile ID is what we're going to be syncing in Connect. So when I was talking about profiles and processes, this is how you can kind of control what gets synced when. So each profile has its own ID. So we'll see our profile here has an ID of 1, but if we had added other profiles, they would be 2, 3, 4, and so on. So I'm going to tell this button to sync any processes that are in profile 1. So I go ahead and set this to 1. So now when this button is pressed, it's going to look for that host and then sync profile 1. So any processes that exist in profile 1 will be triggered. Now if I deploy this change to my device, we should see a sync button now. And once this reloads, we should see that. So there's our sync, there's our button. And if I go back to Connect and then the synchronize window, this also gives you sync activity so you can see if things are syncing or not. So if I click this sync deliver list, you'll see some activity take place and then I would have actually synced over my 8 records. So if I return to the launcher screen, go to view data, deliver lists, we should now see our list of items that we need to deliver. So now we're going to go to deliver goods. And then what we're going to do is select our order number. And it's going to show us what items we need to deliver. So now you would proceed to pull the items off of your truck and then scan the barcodes. I'm going to key them in. So you'll see as I scan the items, they're getting removed from that list. Once the list is empty, you know that you've delivered everything. So you come over to the acknowledge page. You can collect a signature of the user. I'm just going to sign with my stylus, so it's not going to look pretty. And then you can have them, or you can print their name, you know who signed for it, and then save the record. You could then move on to your next stop, select your next order. There's those items for that particular order, and once again, scan, have them sign, and so on. So if we go back and look at our deliver list, we should see it now that these 3 items from that first order have been delivered true, and then have a date delivered of today's date. So now what we'd want to do is get this delivered data back over to our tables in Access. So what I'm going to do now is set up a second profile to do this. So I'm going to click our plus button under the profile. Once again, it'll be a sync profile. Go to our deliver goods project. And then we'll call this one sync from device because this will be data coming from the device. And we'll add our first process will be sync deliveries. This will be our sort of delivery header. that will include our delivered date, signature, and the print name showing that the order was delivered. So we're coming from TracerPlus. We're going to sync from delivered goods and then go to ODBC, our Connect sample, and then we're going to go to our delivered goods table. And we just want to match up the field mappings here. And we just need our, no comments, so I think we're good there. In this case, we want to append, but then we want to remove from the device. So we're going to enable the delete after transfer, as once something's delivered, we don't need to keep it on the device. Then I'll add a second process to this profile, and that'll be our update deliver list. Once again, coming from TracerPlus, this time deliver list, going to our Connect sample deliver list table. And then we'll just match up our field mappings. And in this case, we're going to update existing based on the order number and the item number. So this is going to update each row in our deliver lists of whether that item was delivered or not. So I'm just going to save this. Now, in order to sync this profile, I'm going to need to add another button to our sync form. I'm just going to copy our existing button and then just rename it. We'll call it Sync Deliveries. And we're going to use the same host, but now let's use the other profile, which is 2. So profile 2. We're going to tell this button to sync that profile, so it'll sync both of those processes within that profile. And then I can center these if I want. So I'll go ahead and deploy this. And that should now be on my device. If I go to sync, we should now have our second button. And before I sync this, let's just take a look at our data. So we have our deliver goods table. Currently nothing's in it. And then our update deliver list, you'll see it looks the same as when we synced it. So let's go ahead and sync deliveries. We see our activity. It's going to sync both processes. And if we go back and refresh, you'll see that the 3 items we did deliver have now updated that deliver list table, marked as delivered, and the date it was delivered. And if we look at our sync deliveries, this is sort of our delivery header. We see the date it was delivered, the order number, delivered, the signature name. So it actually syncs a file to a set folder that you can configure within Connect. So it'll show you that signature and then the print name. Depending on your database, you can also embed these images directly into the field and then view them using some sort of reports. And you'll also see that we should have deleted our row from the delivered goods, being that we delivered the item. So that concludes the demonstration of our delivered goods app and how to configure it to sync data back and forth using our TracerPlus Connect software and the sample tables provided for the specific project.